Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning Blog. My name is Melisa Galasso, and today we're going to talk about something I always find very interesting, which is the structure of GAAP. GASB has issued a discussion memo, and it's really designed around addressing an issue that FASB had addressed back in 2010. So we've been talking about this for a long time, which is how do we make GAAP authoritative, easy to do research in, and accurate? And FASB in 2010 decided to go with the codification approach where it was going to be a single process. We have ASUs that update that process, but the actual ASUs themselves are not authoritative. And so the codification is the one true place to find GAAP, and that's where you do your research. So when they issued ASU 2016-02 for leases, that updated and created topic 842 within the codification. However, every time they amended leases, there'd be subsequent ASU numbers. It would update 842. So you would never go back to 2016-02 when doing research because it's been amended several times. You want to go to 842 for the most accurate information. Now, GASB has done something very different. So GASB has always had the GASB statements, which are authoritative, and the GASB codification, which is also authoritative. And so a project that they're working on is to look at the structure of GAAP. So when we think about the structure of GAAP, we look at the communicating generally accepted accounting principles for state and local governments. We have two authoritative GAPs. We have the statements and the codification. However, similar problem, if you only look at a statement and it's amended later, you're not getting the complete picture, and that can be very difficult. So when we're looking at this for a pre-agenda research project, they were looking at the effectiveness of the dual authority. So they have been doing research projects predominantly on determining how stakeholders engage with literature, how the dual authority approach is maintained, and then they wanted to do some outreach about how it would impact them if they were to go to a single model approach. So they did a survey, and out of 683 respondents, they indicated that they use at least one of the following: which individually published standalone original pronouncements, which would be the GASB statements, the original codification collection, or the codification itself. So again, when we think about the options here. However, it suggested a general reliance on the individual published standalone original pronouncements. About 40% of people indicated that they use only those. And that gives us pause because, again, they may be complete, they may have superseded guidance, and no one knows about them at that point in time. And so the GASB has some concerns here. They also did interviews and acknowledged the advantages of the codification relative to other publications due to its comprehensive nature, right? It works on the FASB side of the house. We've seen this in the international standards as well. The AICPA has gone that way for a lot of their standard setting as well. And so we know that that can be very important and have a single source of GAAP. So after doing some initial research, they started to do a second phase, which was to look at other standard setters. So again, looking at how other people are doing this and how could that help. So they were looking at identifying alternatives for the components that comprise what would be a potential single authority, and then getting feedback through a due process document, which is what we're going to focus on today. So as part of that, the single authority approach, the GAAP to GAAP, they would have just the single codification. It would have all GAAP and as well as some other, content in there, which we do have today. And it would eliminate the issuance of authoritative original pronouncements. And so it would be much more like the FASB where you have these updates, but they're not authoritative. You would just have the codification in there. And the codification already exists. It was developed in 1984, and it has various parts and sections. So in the parts area, you're going to have general principles, financial reporting, measurement, specific balance sheet items, and then standalone reporting for specialized units and activities. When we look at this is the highest level of GAAP. Within there are various sections. And so that's where you go to the subsections in order to find the actual topical grouping. And so this has been around, again, since 1984, which is the year that the GASB was created. So this is not a new concept. It's just that we tend to, based on the information we're receiving, over-rely on the statements themselves. We don't go to the codification. And so one of the things that they're looking at is how would they communicate a change? And that would be through a non-authoritative standalone document, sort of like the ASUs that we see in FASB, in combination with a pending content to communicate changes to a single authority codification. Again, very similar to what we see in the FASB world. So both the new requirements and changes would be considered amendments, and then they could be either insertions, deletions, or just modifications for changes. So this would be a major change, and the GASB is looking for feedback. So comments are due August 31st, and they'd love to hear from you as to what, do you like this idea? And they have some questions that you can answer. Do you believe that a single version of authoritative guidance makes more sense? So if this is of interest to you, please give feedback. If you haven't, take a look at the codification, right? If you go to the GASB website, there is a codification available to you in addition to the actual statements. And so see how you work through there. Can you see the authoritative, the non-authoritative? They have a lot of the implementation guide information in there. And so it's actually pretty handy. We just don't use it very much. We would have to change how we cite things and things of that nature. So I think it's a very interesting project. And I hope that you take a look and provide the GASB with comments. But with that, I want to thank you for joining me today on the Genuine Learning blog, and I hope to see you on a future blog. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.